So the first thing we need to do is check for a response. So we need to say if window dot, and we need to say XML HTTP request. Okay, so we're checking for an XML HTTP request. If so, we do something, otherwise we do something else. And the rest of our code is going to go down here. So if so, then we're going to create a new variable called XML HTTP, and that's going to equal new XML HTTP request. And remember the parentheses at the end. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can use this XML HTTP to, well, in the rest of our code. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say else, and this is going to handle it for different browsers. So for some browsers this will be the case, and some this will be the case. So you can say XML HTTP equals new. But this time we're going to create an ActiveX object. And the reference here is Microsoft.xml.http. Now, it's very important that you understand that everything I'm writing is case sensitive. So when I come to test this at the end of the tutorial, when we're finished writing out our code, you might find it hasn't worked for myself, so I'm going to have to go back and check. So I may have created maybe, I mean, with variable names it obviously doesn't matter, but with things like this, it needs to be a capital XML, capital H, small TTP, and a capital R, and then the rest small. So it has to be, well, it is case sensitive, so you need to watch out for that. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is check for a change of state. So we're going to create an if statement, and I'm going to say if, oh no, I'm not, sorry, no, I'm not checking this way. What I'm saying is XML HTTP dot, and we're going to write onReady state change. So onReady state change. Now we're going to equal this to a function. So this might not be something that you've seen before. We're equaling this to a function, and then what we're doing is we are creating the block for our function. So we're saying that onReady state change. So when the state has changed, we're going to perform what's in here. We're going to perform the action in here. Okay. So onReady state change equals function. So this is a function that we're going to create, or run rather, if our state has changed. So now we need to do a couple of checks. We need to check that the XML HTTP dot ready state is equal to 4, and we also need to check that the XML HTTP status is 200. So we just type status equals 200. Sorry, double equals there. Just pull this in as well. Okay, so if it does, we're going to continue. So this is just doing a couple of checks to make sure we've got correct codes being sent back. And now inside of here, we need to do what we need to do. So what we essentially need to do is we need to check, we need to insert some HTML data into this div tag. And by HTML data, this could be a PHP file, because when we echo out hello, this is essentially HTML data. We can also read in text files, things like that, to our div as well, but we're just going to be focusing on PHP, like I said. So now what we do is we say document, so we're referencing something on our document, and we're saying get element by ID. And getting element by ID takes an element from a page by its ID. Obviously we've set an ID of a div to this div here, so in here we can type a div. And then we're going to say dot inner and HTML in capitals, and we're going to equal this to XML HTTP dot response text. So when we send a request here, up here, we on the change of state, we are checking the ready state and the status of the page to make sure it's not empty. So this 200 here is making sure it's not empty. And then we're getting the element a div, and we are changing the inner HTML of this div down here, and that's going to be the response text. So now under here we need to send what we want to put into this. We want to send what we want to put into our div, essentially. So what we do is we say XML HTTP dot open. Now what we're doing is we're opening with get. So we're opening get, we're getting the data from the page, we're not posting anything, we just need to get the contents of this page. And that is include.inc.php. Okay, so the last parameter is whether we are going to do this asynchronously. So we're just going to write true in here, and then underneath we write XML HTTP dot send. So what this is essentially doing is it's taking the content of this file here and we're placing it into this div using this line here, and when we send, this is going to be picked up here. So everything's working, hopefully working as it should be. So let's go ahead and test this. So what should happen is we click on the submit button, we call this load function, we check depending on different browser types the XML HTTP request, and put the valid instance of this into it. We check for a state change here, we check the ready state and the status, so make sure the page doesn't return nothing, and we get the element a div and put some HTML inside of this, and that's the response text from this, and we're taking this value from here, so we're sending the data essentially straight to this div. So let's go ahead and refresh this page and test to see if this works. So what should happen is when I click submit, we should have the value hello being output underneath it, because what we're essentially doing in include.inc.php is we're just echoing out hello. So this should just echo out the content of our PHP page. Let's try and see if it works. Okay, it's not working. There's a surprise. So let's go back through our page and just have a look at everything and check that everything's okay.